served, right? I haven't been, I should go like. Yeah, I wouldn't go anywhere else and could have just.
We are recording.
Like cooking myself, not cooking myself.
Okay. Welcome to the March 19th, 2025 meeting of the Executive Committee. My name is Sandy McKee and I'm the chair of the committee. Tonight, we are joined by District Manager Jesus Perez. The meeting is called to order at 6:33 p.m. As a reminder, New York State law requires all committee members who are not able to attend the meeting in person to have their cameras on and their first and last names displayed from the time the meeting is called to order until the time the meeting is adjourned. Members of the public who are attending virtually, you may raise any questions or comments that you have through the Q&A feature of Zoom. And we don't have any members of the public present. CB6 Assistant Secretary Jerry Weinstein will take minutes tonight. We will now take minutes by attendance by roll call. Jesus will conduct the roll call.
Good evening, members. I will call your name. When your name is called, please say present. I will announce if there is quorum. Majed Abdul Samad is absent. Neil Barkley is absent. Avi Barroso.
Present.
Thank you. Stu Desser.
Here.
Thank you. V. Disman.
Present.
Thank you. Jason Tunnelwitz.
Present.
Thank you. Justin Goldberg.
Present.
Thank you. John Keller might be joining us later on, but is not here right now. Nad Kalani.
Present.
Thank you. Anton Malnar.
Present.
Thank you. Sandy McKee.
Present.
Thank you. Rich Mintz.
Present.
Thank you. Kevin O'Keefe.
Present.
Thank you. Livia Shrednick is absent. Gabe Turzo.
Present.
Thank you. Jerry Weinstein.
Present.
Thank you. With 8 of 16 members duly present, you do not have quorum.
It's not half.
It's more than half.
More than. Okay.
But how does that impact us? It just means that.
Meaning you cannot vote on anything today. Technically, it means you should adjourn the meeting, but that's not really practical when you only meet once a month.
The agenda for tonight's meeting is reflected on the screen before you. If there is no objection, we will adopt the agenda. Members of the committee, if you object to adopting the agenda, please raise your hand. All right, seeing no objections, the agenda for tonight's meeting is adopted. The minutes from the February 19th meeting were distributed ahead of time by the board office. If there is no objection, we will adopt the minutes as drafted. Members of the committee, if you object to adopting the minutes, please raise your hand. All right, seeing no objection, the minutes from the February 19th meeting are adopted. They will soon be available on the CB6 website. Our ground rules. No one may speak until granted the floor. Committee members who are here in person, if you have a question about committee basis or wish to make a motion, please raise your hand and I will identify you so you can speak. Committee members unable to attend in person, if you have a question, please raise your hand through Zoom and I will identify you so you can speak. All committee members, it is important that only one person speak at a time so that members of the public watching at home can understand what is being said by each committee member. The chat function for committee members present via Zoom should not be used for committee business or questions about agenda topics. So first on our agenda is the chair's report. So please, chairs, finalize your agendas and minutes for the office to distribute 3 days before the meeting. If the office does not receive those, they will assume the meeting is canceled. So especially, I mean, unfortunately for the people who aren't here, this is just a reminder. It's, you know, we have to, it's only fair to the staff, board staff, to know what's coming up and they need to do some preparation. So please. I went to the 34th Street Partnership meeting today and they voted to support congestion pricing. Which was very interesting because apparently, I mean, it's the 34th Street bid. Apparently previously they had some very strong objections, but they like it.
What was the vote?
It was unanimous.
Wow.
Is that something that I can talk about publicly or no?
No. because, wait till they publish it.
Okay.
They reiterated that, you know, they need to get this out to elected officials so they know how they feel about it, but yeah, it wasn't.
Can I ask you a question about,
Mhm.
what was the thought process behind that? Where did that come from?
Members felt that the small cost it was, to pay the tolls was well worth it in made up time.
Okay,
They felt the traffic was moving much faster and,
what was their background? What was their,
these are business people, so they're building owners.
were they against it before?
Yes,
Okay, did they kind of describe how, like, how they changed their thought process?
yes, because once it was enacted, they could move so quickly throughout the city, they felt it was.
Okay.
And especially they said, you know, for higher vehicles, it's made a huge difference.
It
So they
sounds like
saying
it
that-
reflects the same discussion that we have, you know, every time DOT wants to restrict traffic on a street or something and the business owners and the neighbors are all arms, and then all of a sudden it's beautiful.
Well, the other thing, they voted on, the busway.
Oh, I was about to ask you.
And there were
Yeah, Jason, yeah, now he's the.
there were representatives of CB6 and CB4 there, and we both said, you know, our boards are big supporters of this. We really hope you'll consider it. And we mentioned, and there was confusion about it. People they said, oh, there's not gonna be any cars on the street. And it's like, no, it's the same as 14th Street. And so there's a little bit of a learning curve. So I don't know, it was a secret vote. I don't know. I was asked to vote, so I did, but I don't know how the vote turned
Oh,
out.
so they did vote. Interesting, so, okay.
Still tabulated.
Can be tabulated later. Kevin has his hand up.
Yes,
Okay.
just going back to Rich's point, Rich, were you asking if this could be amplified publicly? Because this is a public meeting, and I think the fact that you presented it, that they did this, can be spread far and wide. I think this is a great update. Are you saying we should not
I
call a
don't think
wider audience?
we should not spread it ourselves. We should let the bid do that.
Okay. Okay.
But once
gonna-
they do, we can amplify.
Absolutely.
And we will.
Question on the congestion pricing. When you talk about it being worth it in terms of moving around faster, it sounds like they're primarily talking about their own personal mobility, not necessarily like deliveries and from an economic point of view. Is that correct?
The people that spoke the most was about personal getting around. There was concern, there was a comment that, you know, now every delivery has a charge. So if you're a store owner, you're paying,
Yes, but the goods are getting delivered.
they still voted for it.
Anyway, very good.
They still voted for it. So.
I was just gonna say that, I think we all had our opinion on congestion pricing a few months ago.
Mhm.
And, given like, when that came out, like the amount of, anti-congestion pricing stuff that I would see on my people that I knew, was just like, it was like a tsunami coming out. And, I wonder if we could, like, I'm not sure what happened with the messaging, or maybe it was just inevitable, that made it so that like an issue, and not with this board, but just in general, that made it so that there wasn't the buy-in with something that now, months later, is such a popular idea. And I don't know if there's a way to like reflect upon that in terms of like why, I don't know if they discussed it, like why they would have voted against it before, but now we're so on board with it, but maybe you could speak to that.
Transportation chair. Yeah, so if you look at other cities, particularly Copenhagen, that have implemented congestion pricing, this is pretty much the like expected arc, where like
That's kind of what
extremely
happened.
unpopular
Okay.
before it's implemented, and then it gets to like extremely unpopular right before, and then it starts to be people like it, and it's just become a little less popular.
Yeah, because honestly, if I had gone on the day that it came out, if I had gone in and talked to people, I would have been like like a target of like hundreds of people, like on every single one of my friends were just like going all against it, and I wonder how that got to the point now where it's kind of switched, and then there's so much
Because it's been
support for it.
implemented and people see how it really works.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Okay. They also, the partnership, the bid also has a program to reduce construction sheds in their bid district. And they're down to 14%. They want to get down to 10, but it was also an interesting discussion because one of the building owners that was there said, you know, you make it sound like the building owners like this, but they don't. And they said it's very complicated. So they might be an interesting source of some information.
How is the program working?
Well, I think they just ask their members to get them sheds down and keep prodding. But anyway, it did sound like they had a lot of information about it. And they definitely were supportive of all the bills that are in the council. And so tomorrow is Borough Board, and I'm going to be asking other boards about housing data and reports for their boards. The process that they went through and if it was helpful. And sorry, B, you have your hand raised.
I was gonna just comment on congestion pricing and the letter that has come out of Washington now to the MTA. I assume we'll be talking about transportation, but there are all the issues that they're doing right now with subways, with crimes. That's because the governor has basically said we're not stopping congestion pricing. So I think it'll be interesting for all of us to mobilize because I see these different types of actions taken on the federal government.
Okay, well, sorry, are there any other borough-wide issues that? I mean.
I would only semicolon from what you said a moment ago. When you're in dialogue about the housing, I would ask very specifically about their data sources. I think or
It's
even if
not
it's
that
not in
kind of
live.
meeting. It's if they have interesting data sources, I'll just say,
Oh,
ask
yeah,
to be
without
connected.
enumerating, but
Yeah. Yeah, it's, we have a short amount of time. Okay.
Maybe some updates on what's happening with the illegal cannabis shops in our borough.
And we're going to be talking to OCM directly. Anton and I are going to a meeting that Assemblymember Epstein is sponsoring, so theoretically we can ask there. It's also on April 1st, which. All right.
Sorry, before you move on, I've got something borough-wide-ish.
Okay.
The Queensboro Bridge, I don't know if you've been following the latest news on that.
Oh, that it's still not finished.
It was like, as I understand, it was rumored to have planned to be open on this past Sunday, and according to reports, the mayor's office asked for it to be held up for unknown reasons, and it still hasn't opened. It was promised to be opened by winter
Yeah.
and we're now tomorrow's spring, so.
What does it mean by unknown reasons? Like,
It wasn't
knows
really.
why.
do they have, and they don't have to legally say?
And it's the mayor, please.
They didn't, the mayor's office didn't really elaborate on why, it just that the reporting was that the
Okay.
mayor's office asked
There's
for it
unknown
to be,
reasons, great.
held off, and they didn't explain why.
There's no representative of the mayor there.
Yeah, not surprisingly.
Yeah.
So I don't know, yeah.
All right. Next on my list is budget requests, and we're trying to have a more formal process. And I mean, as we saw at full board, there was a bit of a confusion about, do we need a resolution? And so Jesus has very kindly put together sort of a process that we can follow. And I sent it out to Steve and Nad, and Steve had some very good points, but maybe if you want to put it up, the actual process. So the office has developed a form that you can fill out, and basically it's to help to clarify the request and put it into a format that can be used by the committee. And then the next step was to vote on the request and then include a budget request short title and the outcome of the vote in the minutes of that committee meeting. And if the committee does vote to adopt the request, the committee should rank the request. Now, ranking the requests is actually done at it's not done in that committee, it's done by the budget committee. But I think it's helpful to know if you have 2 or 3 requests, which ones you think are number one. Once the rank has been articulated by the committee, the office will indicate the rank on the proposed request entry. And that will cause the request to be shown on the budget request Airtable, which the public can see. And then the office will also indicate in the notes the request entry that the committee voted to add this request and the date. So it becomes much clearer. And Stephen, I don't know if you want to actually kind of go through your comments, which I thought were very good.
Yeah, no, I thank you. And thank you, Jesus, for putting this together. I think having a formal process is going to help everyone submit their requests. The question that I had when I was looking at this was, well, the suggestion that I had was that before submitting the form, it seems like there should be some kind of a straw poll or informal vote of the committee so that there's some buy-in and understanding of what is going into the budget request, rather than just, I'm not sure what the idea was in terms of who is submitting the form, but it seems like there should be some kind of, action on behalf of the committee first to decide, yes, we want a budget request for X. And what this is going to do is to avoid kind of some of the proliferation of requests in the past that oftentimes the committee members didn't even know what they were, because sometimes they were put in by, let's say, the chair of the committee, and later, in years later, when the requests are still there, sometimes that committee chair isn't even on the board anymore, and nobody knows what the request is about. So it just felt like the whole committee should really have bought into the request before it gets submitted. And then I just had minor suggestions about the form, just saying, can we add the name of the person who is submitting the request on the form so that we can trace it and say, if we have questions, how do we go back and find the person who submitted this? And then lastly, when we developed the guidance for budget requests last year, we sort of put together some ideas around criteria for how to rank your requests. And those 3 dimensions were impact, community buy-in, and feasibility. And so the question would be, can we just add those to the form so people can think about it as they're submitting their request? And it already is sort of captured in our Airtable. So it would kind of just go with the guidance that we had already put together.
Yes, we can certainly add those things. And yeah, one thing I just want to make super clear about calling this a formal process. We should be, cognizant of the fact that to be formal, it either needs to be passed as a resolution or baked into like the bylaws or something. What you guys often do with these processes that you have is more custom than policy. You guys can choose to make it a policy, but given that maybe try it out for a little while, and then as you guys work with it and see, Steve mentioned, maybe a straw poll, maybe some committees feel that works for them, others don't want it, or maybe it works so well that we add that into, right now we're testing it, and so yeah, there's certainly room for all that. But again, one thing to make clear to the committees, I still. My advice would be less is more. The fewer requests, the better, and then you really hammer the ones you do have. Because Steve is right that we used to have situations where some requests would just be, what is this? Who put this? What does this mean? If we get to that point, that means the committee has not been on top of its request. It should never get to that point. Everyone on the committee should have a good understanding what these requests are. And in part, the blurb should make it clear. So hopefully, there will be a lot of things counteracting so that we don't get to that point. But no, there's still room to, make this fit your workflows.
And one thing about having a straw poll ahead of time means that it's probably you do it 1 month and then it comes up the next month as a real budget request. And we really only have 3 months. So, you just have to be aware that these things need to be done pretty soon. We need to, I know everybody, it's now on our
It was already a year ago. It was already a year ago we did this
Yeah,
last.
well, we do it in the fall, but by then, it's not.
October 31st is the New Year's Eve of budget request. November 1st is the New Year's. So those are the dates that you need to. Once November 1st comes around, you technically can start thinking about the next year.
And we typically take July and August off, and then people come in September. It's like, what is it? So it's just, there can be other, if you can maybe take the straw poll at the beginning of the meeting and decide the budget request at the end or something. But it does, we do have to do these in a timely way. So, I think at full board, there was a bit of confusion as to which agency we were asking for the money for the parks resolution. And I think parks do resolutions so that people can help raise money, but it's not necessarily we're asking the agency to give them money. So there may be sort of variations that we also have within. But yes, maybe we try it for a few months and then we can vote at exec whether we want to implement it as the final thing. Okay. That was it for my chair's report. We will now hear from Jesus Perez, the CB6 district manager.
All right, thank you, Sandy. All right, just a few quick things, mostly housekeeping things. Everyone should be aware, everyone in the public should be aware that there is an opportunity for public comment regarding the East River Esplanade. The Parks Department has applied for permits from the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation. The Parks Department proposes to rehabilitate pile encasements and to repair the seawall along the East River Esplanade from 36th Street to 38th Streets. So it seems like a very standard thing that the Parks Department needs to do to get environmental permits for the work it's about to do. But it is there is an opportunity for public comment. So just for transparency's sake, we just want to let you know. If you go onto the CB6 website on the home page, you will find information about how to comment on this because the Department of Environmental Conservation does not make it super easy. In fact, I believe the way you do it is through a snail mail address. So, but you have 2 weeks.
What's that?
You have 2 weeks to do it. So if you're so inclined, the information is there.
And do they actually show you what the work is?
They do not. They do say in the notice, if you click on the notice, they do say that the plans are available for inspection in person for office. A lot of agencies do this.
They don't want coffee.
But you have to make an appointment and all that stuff. So
But you could do it if you really want.
if you really have the time and the inclination, we are not, unlike a ULURP or like a liquor license application where the community board is built into the review process. This is not the case here. There is a public comment period, but they really mean public. Anyone in the public can participate, but that means the CB6 would have to participate as if they were just a normal member of the public.
And they did do the Parks Department did do a presentation on this. I think it was in 2020. And so it's taken them that long to get to this stage. And you may be able to go back and see it on Zoom because they did present what it was.
It sounds like this is unrelated to the new expansion of the Esplanade.
No, it's called Glick Park. And it's the one that you enter under the FDR. It's that section where there are sinkholes.
Where is it? In Waterside?
It's between 37th and
Basically just north of the ferry.
just north of the ferry terminal.
It looks like the parks just needs to do work to keep the pier from falling into the water, and they need to pull some permits to do that. Some of those permits have a 15-day review period, but since we got notice of it, we just want to pass it along to the public just so that no one says we didn't.
Are they rehabbing the park or just the wall?
Just underneath.
Is this parks or environmental protection?
It's the Parks Department that is seeking permits from the State Department of Environmental Conservation.
And it's because it was a wetland and they have to fill it in. So, yeah, but it's good. I mean, it's a good thing. The park needs some rehabilitation. It's, so, okay.
Next, just FYI, the Cannabis Control Board is having its monthly meeting tomorrow at 1 p.m. It's in Syracuse. They travel around the state, so probably a little far to travel for residents of Community District 6.
Budget for the trip?
We do not. We do not.
What are the people who go?
But, you know, if those who are interested, especially those on bulk, it's always interesting to listen in just to get a sense of what the meetings are like and what they talk about. It does not appear they do post draft resos and stuff like that, an agenda like the day before the meeting. So we don't have a lot of time to review them, but it does not appear that the case that the community has really come to CB6 about, the old Hallmark location, is on the agenda. But it never hurts to watch the meeting. It never hurts for members of the community, if you're listening out there in TV land, to sign up to testify at the meeting and to articulate your concern about the shop that is hoping to open there. That never hurts. And certainly reaching out to your elected officials, state elected officials, and asking them what they're doing to ensure that this license gets denied. Never hurts either, because that is the position of Community Board 6. But it's happening tomorrow for those who are interested. If you Google New York State OCM, Office of Cannabis Management, you'll find a tab for the Cannabis Control Board, and information on joining the meeting is there. And some of you may have heard, but those who haven't, the Manhattan Borough Commissioner of DOT, Ed Pinkar, is moving on after many, many, many years
Wow.
in city service, many of those years at the DOT. He is having a going away party on Monday, March 24th at 5 p.m. Those who are interested, the office can give you the details, but he is moving on. He's going to be the head of the Fifth Avenue Association bid. Ed Pinkar. So anyone on the Transportation Committee, anyone who's been an office staff member or a long-term member of the board knows certainly who he is. He's always, I can't always say it about every agency contact we have, but he's always been great to deal with.
Okay, Kevin, you have your hand up? Oh, you're muted, Kevin.
Thank you, Sandy. Jesus, the establishment you're talking about, I did not see it, but somebody did send me pictures. Last couple of days, there's been construction. They've been putting in cameras into the former Hallmark store. It looks like there is movement of front to some business going in there. Do we know if that is on the part of the potential cannabis business or some other, or just the owner maybe putting cameras in, external cameras?
We do not know, but we'll keep coming with details and stuff like that. But we'll keep advocating to the state, to our elected officials, for the position that CB6 has taken on this matter.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. That concludes my report.
Okay. We'll now I'll go on to committee meetings. Parks, Landmarks, and Cultural Affairs. No one's here.
Yes, Neil is not coming tonight, but he asked that we present his agenda as so. A report from the Parks Department liaison and continued discussion on statement of district needs and budget requests, chair's report, and old new business.
And do we know if he's going to try and pass a new resolution?
He did not indicate that.
Yeah, and you might just let him know if he is, that it should go on the agenda. It's not old business.
You'll certainly,
I think that,
I will certainly let him know that.
Why the venue?
So apparently Neil has been he wants to have a meeting off-site. He seems to be fixated on St. George's, right across the street from Stuyvesant Square Park. It's a landmark. The part of the purview of this committee is landmarks. We need to go tour the space first, just to make sure it's suitable, make sure that, it's like ADA compliant, it's got things that we need for a public meeting. We need to see, if the AB situation is favorable. We do like to meet here in the office because we have control of the space, but we'll see. So that's why it's sort of tentative right now. But if not, it'll be in the office.
Those are from the
The committee meeting.
committee meeting?
Committee meeting.
It's gonna be one hell of a commute for me. About a block.
Yes.
Absolutely.
If you're on the Parks Committee, yes.
Just for parts.
Oh, damn.
Just for
Maybe if it works out, great, we'll have.
We'll see.
Okay, public safety and sanitation, Stu.
We will continue with discovery reform. We're checking to see that everyone who was there last month, plus State Senator Miley will send someone, we hope. And then we'll have parties from both sides and somebody from the middle. We're also going to possibly present a reso that's being drafted by our subcommittee on ICE being allowed into city facilities. And I think Justin was proposing to draft something, but
He's yeah.
he's not here.
We can come back to it.
And then I'm just gonna mention that for the following month, these are obviously citywide or statewide issues. But we're talking about budget and we've had difficulties getting our DSNY and DHS and others to cooperate with us. So I'm thinking of inviting them to the subsequent meeting so we can talk about their interests in budget request. And then we might develop some better understanding of what's going on in the district through that.
All right, so just to be clear, there's too many tentative things on here. The budget request.
The second one will not be, actually, the tentative, you can strike out as not being tentative.
Okay. So we'll just go forward with all of this. We'll make it not tentative, and this will be your agenda.
Correct.
And then we can post it. We can post things with tentative agendas, but we don't tend to like that, so.
And just, the first issue, I admit I only watched the Zoom, I didn't attend the meeting. But it seemed to be back and forth between the two, pro and con. And at the end of the meeting, there was some discussion of maybe supporting one of the bills that was in front of the legislature. I'm not sure if it's assembly or state, but they seem to kind of miss the point of what we as a board would be doing. So I'm just wondering if it's going to be the same type of discussion. I mean,
You're talking about the second.
sorry,
Discovery reform.
I'm sorry, discovery. Yes, I'm sorry.
The format wouldn't be the same. Is that what you're asking?
Good evening.
Right.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Yes, just that, the two sides seem to have fairly robust discussion between themselves. And
The point was that it's a complicated enough issue with enough different viewpoints that the idea was first to understand what they are and to hear them countering, because, every point that anyone makes sounds great until you hear the opposite one. And so it was really necessary for us to hear these points. I think we now know them. We now fairly well recognize what the issues are. we also know that there's a proposition, that there are some propositions, so we wouldn't necessarily support one side or the other, but certain certain third ways perhaps, but we'll see. And Justin,
Yeah, I was gonna ask, like, with respect, is there a reason we'd be taking an opinion on either side? I'm just like wondering, because I feel a strong opinion on one point or the other, because I find myself like not sure how to feel about it.
so.
Like, do we definitively need to take a specific, say, side with one side, but have a strong opinion on?
I think if I understand you, I mean, I think we don't necessarily have to vote with one side or the other. But so for instance, there's S 613, which is also an assembly, there's a comparable assembly bill, so it's both. Which both sides support, so that's sort of an easy one. But the district attorneys want more, and it seems like, and so at the joint Assembly Senate budget hearing last month, Myrie, right? Miley or Myrie? I'm sorry? Myrie, expressed some interest in looking at other solutions. I mean, it looks like there may be ways that both sides can be relatively satisfied. You can call it a compromise or a third way. So, we're hoping that we get that presented to us, and then rather than strongly supporting either position, either opposing position, we might find something in between that we can.
Or we simply ask that they come to a resolution that's, sustainable to both sides. We obviously cannot give them a resolution.
Yeah.
It's like us trying to design the streets. We don't do that. We just,
So I was reading an article in New York Times comment section, and it was like every argument I read was like very convincing both ways, and that it's just one of those topics that I'm like, there's two different sides that both feel very strongly about it, so.
and I shouldn't have used the word resolution, because we can have a resolution, which is how we.
A resolution.
We can't resolve the
Can't
issue.
resolve the issue.
No, but that we
Part of
can,
speech.
if they can also battle in front of us, and we can ask questions, and they can make concessions,
They need to do that in the, in the government and not in front of us, right?
well, if they're talking, and I don't know that they're necessarily going to agree with what we resolve, because it may be a compromise or something. But it may be Myrie may come up with the bills that we want to support.
I just, caution that we should be focused on what the result is, that we're, as we said, you need to have some vision of what it is coming out of this discussion, so.
I think we.
You do, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hmm.
Transportation.
Transportation, we have a number of things. Is this? Thank you. Yeah, first, we're hearing from, discussing open street proposal, on 22nd Street. Don't expect that to be controversial. Then we've got, discussing Spark traffic impacts. We've got this joint resolution with, the name of the committee is escaping me because it's been a very long day. Thank you. And then we're talking, we have a proposed resolution on 58th Street and the Queensboro Bridge and the roadway, so for some pedestrian safety concerns. Then we had second to last, we have discussing the 5 most dangerous intersections that the NYPD had shared at a recent meeting, and potentially passing a resolution around that. And then finally, statement of district needs.
Do you think you're gonna get to number 6?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of a hefty agenda, but I don't think there's gonna be a ton of discussion around the open street nor on the number 4 or 5, I may have a little bit of discussion on. I think they'll be fairly light in terms of.
It's a good point. I think we need to think ahead of time how we talk about dangerous intersections, because could be an accordion, especially in the public. It's like, why is mine dangerous district?
Yeah, well, personally, I have some concerns about just the, yeah.
But it's
I have
based on
concerns.
data. It's-
Yes, but yeah.
Yeah. And might I ask who wrote the resolution for Spark?
I don't know. I don't, I think it was. I'm not positive. Offhand.
Okay, health and environment, Albie. We can come back to Albie if she's not available. John's with us. John Kelly. Budget and governmental affairs.
So, yeah. So for the citywide statement of city facilities, we started discussing it in the previous meeting. We had some outstanding items and questions, so we're following up on those, and we're going to continue to work through it. We do have some time, so we're going to work to pass sort of our traditional response there. And then 2 is continuing to discuss budget requests. One thing we'll fold in is the form Jesus brought up and just how we want to continue to refine that process. I think, one of the things we've been talking about is just continuing to refine it. And one of the topics that this topic is just that. So we'll sort of build in probably the changes that Steve mentioned, as well as other changes from our committee. And then for 3, this was something we discussed in our last meeting about just how to make the requests just stronger, more effective. And what we did is we're going to just basically look at what other Manhattan community boards do for their requests, just see if we can learn from them. Anyways, if they release the responses, in an easy way to review, we'll see if they have, had success with those and getting those responses, and really just work through that entire thing to basically say, okay, as this upcoming budget cycle happens, what changes do we want to make? Is there anything potentially, I guess, using that form that we want to include there that could help us just get stronger responses?
And I guess too, at the full board, we're hoping to have both of the council members who are involved, well, let's put it this way, Keith Powers will be there, so it might be a good time to bring up that, our budget request was actually met, which is pretty astounding. So, sort of a bit of a celebration of that, and I think that's good for people to know that they do work.
Yeah, and I think this year was a good year where we started to get better responses, so I think that's a good reinforcement of that, so that folks do, put more time into it, because it is an effective tool, so I think I like that idea.
Okay.
Matt and Steve, do you guys want to maybe draft a quick note to your committee, reminding them of their little homework assignment? And we can send it around to them?
Yep, we'll do that.
Thank you.
Okay. Housing and homelessness. Rich.
Yes, so we are working on a housing survey, a survey of what types of housing we have, and to the extent we can get them things like median rents and so forth. It is turning into a communal project. We've broken it into working groups. It's kind of hard to steer a committee like this to do productive work, but I think we're going to be able to do it. And so we will be meeting on we just met 2 days ago. In our meeting in April, we will be discussing some interim work product and figuring out how to move the ball forward. And Brian and I and Jerry are all going to be involved in nudging the working groups along during the interim weeks to make sure we make progress. And then we are going to bring the district needs up again, but this time we're really going to do district needs rather than having it on the agenda and then postponing at the end of a long meeting, because we're running out of months.
Thank you. Okay, youth and education, Kevin.
I'll be there in a second. I'm here. Next meeting is being planned for April with the agenda items to include budget requests and also school playground space for public use during stretches when school
I'm sorry, Kevin, your meeting is coming up the end of this month, so what we're asking about is the March one.
I'm sorry, go ahead. I'm sorry, I have some background. Hit me again. Sorry, Jesus.
Your meeting is actually coming up at the end of this month. So
Yes, I'm aware.
Yeah.
Yes, and we're planning, I think we talked about this before internally. The next meeting will be next month, not this month. So we're not planning on having a meeting this month as we
Okay.
continue to research on many fronts, including outreach to the PTA presidents of the schools in our district, which we would like to have a voice at the April meeting. So if we can plan on not having a meeting this month, next week, and then we'll have it on the April calendar.
Okay, so you're formulating the April agenda and
Yeah,
we'll get
I'm
it.
formulating the April agenda, exactly. If you want to wait until I do that dump to you, we can wait, but I do have some agenda items that we're ready to put on next month's agenda.
Okay, yeah, I'll have Brian reach out to you and he can get those from you, and then we'll cancel your March meeting.
Okay. I did want to say too, I did hear from the UFT. There is some concern today because something the mayor said, and I just want to put this out there so we should be aware of it, because we have been talking about the use of cell phones in schools, but apparently today the mayor did go out and say even educators should not have cell phones during school hours. So I just want to use this opportunity, if I could, to just read a quick statement that the UFT wants people to know. It's 2 sentences. The mayor's misguided comment that educators shouldn't have access to their cell phones in schools infantilizes teachers and school professionals. Educators are professionals and should be treated as such. So thank you for that opportunity to pass that along from the UFT. Oh, one more thing. The MTA confirmed today that we'll stop selling Metro cards this year, although students should know that the physical Omni cars will remain in circulation and be used. And
Okay.
we may address that as well to do some possibly tap and go for students as well.
Okay, business affairs and licensing, Anton.
I can't read that, but.
I can't either.
I guess we have a dozen things to go through. What I'm happy about is that we finally got some of the Roadway Cafe application requests that are more than 2 days before the meeting. So I've been going through them. I have some comments. I think one of the things I'm going to try to mention to the committee members is about getting ourselves out, take a look at some of these licensee applications, whether it's SLA or cannabis or roadway sidewalk cafes. So we can speak from actual visual experience rather than looking at Google Maps. Other than that, I don't have anything else.
A couple things, Anton. It might be good if you and me and Brian sit down sometime in the next few days, maybe to talk a few logistics and stuff for the meeting. I might, last meeting went really, really well. It was really efficient. We're not expecting an agenda quite as long, but the month is still young. We should probably expect some applications to come up in that week of bulk. So let's not speak too soon.
Better to have some now.
Yes.
Than everything 2 days before the meeting.
Yes, but it might be good. I'll have Brian send you an email. We should chit chat about logistics in the next few days.
Sure.
Additionally, we got a communication from the Manhattan Chamber of Commerce, who would like to come and present. I think they said your next meeting, but we'll see if that works out timing wise, but would like to give a few minutes of a presentation on some of their free services to small business. And they're wondering if there's any interest in that from your committee.
There's interest, but the question is how long an agenda we have. You know, I think the last meeting with the suggestions that we discussed went pretty fast, but it was still over 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at what we have now and some of the stuff I've already looked through. Perhaps maybe this meeting might not be the best time, but maybe the meeting after in April.
I can let them know. They do claim it's about 5 minutes, they say. And we're not sure that you'll ever have a short meeting again, so.
Claim is the key word.
Yes, okay, well, I'll let them know, I'll see if maybe some other time.
If I can get some more information about.
I've asked them to please send me their slide deck, but your meeting's coming up, in a little over a week, so
We have some time.
Yeah.
We do have a member of the public who's raised their hand.
Yes, good evening. My name is Sherry Guccione and I live at 230 East 15th Street in Manhattan. And I have a question I was going to ask at Housing and Homelessness, but I'm now in licensing, and this is my question because I don't know where to ask it, and you're moving rapidly with all of your business at hand. We have two brownstones south of my building on East 15th Street that have many work permits and have been working diligently for the last 2 years. And they're now working on putting a pool in the bottom of the brownstone. Today, I noticed that they have a sign called Rove, R-O-V-E Travel, luxury furnished monthly rentals with the amenities of a 5-star hotel. I never at any time received any questionnaire as to how I felt or any of my fellow apartment dwellers, owners felt about a luxury rental going next to us and now an in-ground pool in the bottom. Is that something that Community Board 6 would have to do with licensing? Are you aware of this? I guess that's my question.
I recommend that you send the board office, and it's help at CBSIX, the information, the address of the building in question. And we can do a little bit of investigation to see what permits they have, but it has not come to our attention.
Okay, great. I will do that and send it on to the Community Board 6, just general office.
No, the help at CBSIX, CB like Community Board, SIX like the number 6 spelled out, .org. And yeah, just send us what you've told us here, that picture you took of the sign or something, send that. Look, typically stuff like this does not come before the board, but we can certainly do a little digging.
And
Okay.
And if there's a violation, we can certainly, take some action. We just need to look into it.
Right.
So
I guess
the building across from Stuyvesant Square, near the church?
yes, it's right across the street from Stuyvesant Square. Okay. There are two brownstones between this building and the church there, the small church, not the Ukrainian, the Orthodox church on the corner of 2nd Avenue, not St. George's. So, and then the rest are apartment buildings. There's nothing commercial on the street. And, it looked kind of peculiar to me that this has just happened and nothing there was no notification at all.
we weren't notified either, so it's, we'll look into it, and it's help, HELP. I noticed the closed captioning didn't catch that.
Could someone send me a text or an email with the exact address is? Because I'm not getting.
I'll put it in the chat. I'll put it in the chat right here, and so you'll be able to see.
And I need to write it down. Okay. Okay. Thank you so much for your time, everyone.
No problems. Yeah, but send us that email. I'll be in the neighborhood actually on Tuesday in that exact area. So maybe I can poke around.
Yeah, have a look. I think it's a very interesting thing that's going on.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
All right, and Tom, were you finished?
Yeah, it was just, seems to be a stealth operation going on, but it may be as of right. We don't know.
Absolutely. If it's as of right, we don't hear it. But next, land use and waterfront, Gabe.
Okay, so we have some very exciting stuff happening. EDC is going to come and they're going to talk about the final iteration of Spark and Innovation East, which is actually, it's
really rewarding because we're gonna get to talk about some of the wins, things we fought for that wound up in the final city council approved version. So that's really exciting. While they're there, we can also yell at them about the marina and ask them about the 14th Street pinch point, any other waterfront issues are in front of us. There is also, sorry, I had it open, here we go. The water club, we should, in theory, have a reso on the water club.
We need it by Friday.
Yeah, I will chase that as well. We are not unaware of the exigency of the situation. We have the aforementioned Spark Traffic Reso, which was written by Barack.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, that was.
IRT, is it the IRT and the BMT? Okay.
Historically accurate.
Yes.
We have a presentation from our planning fellow who has done some really interesting work on the neighborhood loading zone program. She's gonna give her sort of preliminary report. I just got it a couple hours ago. I'm gonna send her some comments tonight. She's done a lot of legwork, some interesting stuff. And we're gonna hopefully find the time to do this district needs and budget request. I think hopefully April, we're going to, if time allows, really, we're not gonna let this turn into a thing where we scramble in October and then don't do anything meaningful. So we're gonna at least open the door to this, and in probably April, spend a good chunk of the meeting on this, so we're not caught unawares or don't use our time valuably.
And I guess one thing that did come into the office, the woman who came about the project on 44th Street, we found out that it actually has inclusionary housing. Okay? So, and it is it's HPD, I forget which organ, but anyway, they are working with them for affordable housing in that location. So that's interesting. We, again, did not know about it, but it's maybe something we should try and follow up with.
Yeah, do we have that person's information, I suppose?
Well, it came through the board office. That's where they got the information. So we can, and I asked to follow up on it, so we'll see what happens.
Because that building is as right, though, is my understanding.
Yes.
That flyover is in our district, the Con Ed, the 14th Street.
Yes.
Yes, well, the northern part.
It lands in our, yes.
Yes. So you start in CV6 and you end in CV3.
And our other two planning fellows, do we know, one's working with Barack, right? Do you know if they've?
I haven't heard anything. I think they were trying to get in touch. I'm not sure where things.
You know, it's due, like, maybe, I mean, if it really should be on your agenda. So if you, I mean, I'll reach out to Barack too, but they've got to present, so. And they should be talking to.
Yes.
We can talk offline about that. There's some details.
Okay. Okay, all right. And I guess that's anything. Is there any old or new business?
Wait, can we go back?
I'm sorry. Yes, please. Health and environment.
Yes. Good evening, everyone. So next month we will continue to discuss on lead pipes and also about the adverse health effects of the siren noise.
And statement of district needs.
And the statement of the district needs for healthcare and human services.
And
so, yes.
And you might just.
Yep.
Sorry, just add to that, LV, that it's budget requests as
You
well.
don't listen anymore if you had enough.
I have had enough 10 minutes ago.
Pardon?
Sorry. Sorry, you might just add budget requests to the end of that as well, so that you can discuss both.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, great, thank you.
All right.
Any old or new business? Okay, seeing no further business, the meeting is adjourned. If there are no objections, we will adjourn the meeting. Seeing no further business, the meeting is adjourned at 7:00.